Today in history, in 1966, the United Nations General Assembly endorsed the Outer Space Treaty, an international treaty binding the parties to use outer space only for peaceful purposes.
Welcome to What the Fuck History, where we discuss the wackiest and weirdest things that make us say, well, what the fuck history. Recording live from chilly Mitchell, South Dakota, I am your host, Zachary, and man, this is a lot of corn.
My name's Meghan, and I will be the United Nations General Assembly's top police task force for enforcing the fact that peace is only going to reign supreme in space.
And I'm Matt. Today I learned about something called Cotard delusion, where a person believes they are dead or that they are immortal. It's closely related to a similar delusion where the sufferer believes that members of their family have been replaced by imposters. That's right, folks. This is your friendly reminder that your brain is 3 pounds of squishy goo that plays tricks on you sometimes.
What, like...
See, what's really fun is when I say things and my co-hosts are just quiet for a good half second. That's how I know I landed a good one.
No, I'm processing, because, like, so your family, let's say you think your mom's an imposter, right? What if she's, like, an imposter for the better?
I don't think that's
Like-
ever how this goes.
Like, what if the person that replaced your family member, you're like, I actually kind of like them
I actually
more.
prefer them, to be honest. TBH.
Actually, they're pretty great.
Yeah, like,
This version of Avril Lavigne is way better,
Yeah, like,
if
what
I'm
if-
honest.
But, like, seriously, it's just like, wow, this version of my dad talks to me way more.
Man, this version of my dad isn't emotionally distant.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah,
So I don't
Like-
think it works that way. I think it's always for the negative.
Okay. Look,
well, no,
with
we
that
don't know
attitude,
that.
for
we
sure.
Have an interview. We have a
Hey,
canvas.
look, I'm not a
Yeah, with
person
that
who's...
attitude, we can be hopeful.
I'm not a person who's studying the brain and these diseases, so I don't know.
that's fair. Neither
You know what?
am I. I'm
just
just
think
this is just
that
conjecture.
maybe-
You know what is really interesting to learn, though?
It's just-
Science.
This is another Today I Learned, except I learned it a long time ago. People who come from nations where they're socially supported, so like tribal cultures and things like that, where people are like all together in better, maybe not better health, but their mental health is much better because they're supported by an entire tribe. When they hallucinate voices with schizophrenia, the voices are positive. Like they're encouraging.
That's really cool.
As opposed to like most Americans who are schizophrenic just hear negative thoughts.
On that note, did you know?
Damn, dude, can you
On
imagine?
that note, it's time to
Did you-
end.
Did you know? Speaking of America and also tribal nations,
America.
that several nations no longer consider the United States to be a developed nation.
Yes, I also saw a video the other day
I don't
of
blame
a
them.
council member from some Irish council who was trying to convince people that America is a third world country
Yeah.
and requires like UN aid essentially. And he's like listing off
does.
all the reasons why it could
does,
be
though.
classified as one.
Yep.
Yeah, no public transport, constant threat
No
of being
universal
shot.
healthcare.
We have terrible education, no access to public health care, the highest maternal, like, I think, birth
Highest
rate
maternal and infant
among quote-unquote
death rate. Yeah. Yeah.
mortality. Yeah.
You know,
What
all the
else?
good stuff.
We don't believe in abortions.
We rank
Women
first
suck.
in all of
like-
the important categories, like gun
Like believing
deaths,
that angels are real.
Gun deaths.
believing that angels are real. We also rank first
Is that a
in
category?
COVID deaths.
And we rank last in math. So all the important
Yeah.
things.
And on that note, let's fuck this pig.
Super
And on
important.
that note, Zach wants to fuck a pig. All right, listening audience, we have reset our strikes to 0.
Silence.
And we have played a game
Absolute
of
silence.
rock, paper, scissors that only existed in our mind palace. And the order for tonight is me, and then Zach's gonna talk to you for a bit, and then Megan's gonna go. And then we're gonna close this thing out, go to bed, wake up tomorrow, and hopefully be in a better place.
Sounds great.
I mean, that's just my hope. It's probably not gonna happen, but we'll see.
We can give it a try.
So this story that I'm about to tell you guys comes from World War II. And I truly didn't mean to do 2 World War II stories a week apart, but maybe because of the way that Zach releases these, I didn't. So we'll see. That being said, we're going back to the sequel to World War I. And today we're going to talk about planes. So, in a war, it's important that you're always trying to develop good technology, gooder technology than your enemies.
Gooder?
The goodest, actually. And last week, if Zach releases these back to back, I told a story about a fancy new U-boat that sank itself because it had a high-tech toilet.
Oh yeah, the toilet.
And as toilet sub. And as I mentioned today, we're talking about jet. Well, I said we were talking about planes, but I'm talking about jet planes specifically. We are talking about the very first jet plane, which is the Bell P-59, which was also known as the Era Comet. Don't ask me. They named it. So the whole purpose of war is developing new tech. And up until this point in World War II, planes had been prop planes. So they have propellers, the little things that go like... kind of like a helicopter, but it goes on the front of the plane. You guys know what a propeller is. Shut the fuck up. Not you, the listeners. They're yelling at me because I'm going on and on. You can't hear it, but I can. In my mind palace. So
I love you, Matt. You're a genuinely wonderful person.
So the P-59 was one of the first jet planes to be put into development. And I'm not going to go through the process of describing all of the details about the P-59 because it'll bore people. The aforementioned people that are speaking in my head about how... Oh my
We're last
God,
in math and science. You can't. Huh? I don't understand it.
We're
last in math and science in this country. You think I'm gonna understand anything that comes out of your mouth regarding that plane?
People won't know. Well, I expect you to because you're college educated.
The people
in math and science.
No, they don't. They don't teach us math and science in college. They say, "What do you want to learn?" And I stupidly said,
and then you also said history.
And they said that will not get you a job.
I was actually required to take pre-calculus in college.
I was required to take statistics, and I failed it every time. It wasn't until my last semester where I hired someone to take statistics for me and just go to all of the classes that I passed.
America, capitalism at work.
That's actually not even the truth. I didn't have to take stats because my degrees don't make sense. So anyways, I'm not going to bore anyone with the cool details about the plane. But what makes the story what the fuck history worthy is that during the P-59's first test flight on October 2nd, the year of our Lord 1942, Bell Aircraft Corporation's test pilot Robert Morris Stanley was given the task of test flying his jet plane, but the U.S. Army Air Force wanted to ensure that nobody knew what they were looking at. So more specifically, they wanted to make sure that people had a hard time believing what they were seeing, and so to accomplish this task, they asked Stanley to wear a gorilla suit while he was piloting the aircraft. That way, if anyone encountered the plane, they'd think it was a stunt or a joke instead of a secret military test. And here's the best part of this story. Are you guys ready for the best part of this story?
Yes.
I don't think you're ready for the best part of this story. It's a lie. I was swindled while I was researching this story. I saw like a post on, I don't remember where I found this story from.
Bamboozled,
I've been bamboozled.
if you will.
You've been bamboozled, yes.
I got bamboozled. So essentially everything that I just told our listening audience is a lie, and it's not even our April Fool's episode. So I feel bad about that. But I got balls deep in the researching process, and I had finished an entire page of notes about this. I was just like, oh, cool, this story is so awesome. And then I fucking got into actually researching the event itself, and there was absolutely no information about it. And I was just like, something about this seems fishy. So I tried to find the original article. And when I found the original post on Reddit or wherever I found it, I saw under the post and 2 comments away was just someone that was like, this is a lie. This is the real pilot that did this, and this is the reason why they did it. So I was just like, well, fuck. But as I mentioned to our Patreon subscribers, and as I'm mentioning now to save my own ass, Zach told me he thought it would be funny, so I left it. We just decided to lie to you for the whole first story. However, there was a pilot named Jack Woolams who did... Yeah, Woolams. It's spelled W-O-O-L-A-M-S.
I love Woolams.
It's a great last name, to be honest. I giggled about it the first time I read it. But he piloted a P-59 while he was wearing a gorilla mask and smoking a cigar. And he was wearing a bowler hat.
Okay.
But he did it just because he was a prankster. So he went up in a plane with a gorilla mask and a cigar and a bowler hat just to... And
he was Magilla Gorilla in a fucking plane?
He was Magilla Gorilla. And he did it for the benefit of other pilots that were up there. I don't know why... Truthfully, I don't know why I was swindled for so long with this story, because, if you're developing a new plane, and even if you're flying it around, people are going to know it's an airplane. And so...
Yeah, I mean, it would also be pretty funny if they did catch him, even if this was real, right? And he's just like, oh, sorry, I got lost, and I happened to be doing this in a gorilla costume.
I mean, the post that I had seen was it was a Nazi saying I saw a gorilla flying a plane, and they're like, we need to get you to the infirmary. And I guess for that aspect of it, it would make sense to be oh, if someone sees this plane flying, but they come down and say, I saw a gorilla flying a jet plane, people would be like, okay, so here's what we're going to do with you. And they'd kill him because they were Nazis and they were generally not good people. But, and I think that kind of interested me about the story is oh, they found a way to, pull one over on the Nazis. I mean, we won the war, so we also pulled that over the Nazis, but the Nazis' leader also killed himself, so way to go, Nazis. That's the only thing the Nazis had going for them, is that their leader killed himself. So yeah, it was a lie, mostly. There was a gentleman who dressed up in a gorilla suit to fly a plane, but it was unfortunately not the first flight of the plane. And he did it just for a laugh among his friends. What I did find interesting about the P-59, at least the first batch of the P-59s, the one that I'm talking about, they never made it into circulation. So these were just test planes. They made other variations of this test plane. But the Era Comet itself never made it out into the wild, except for test flights. So
Interesting.
yeah, that's my. It's a baby story, guys. It's a tiny little baby story, but it's also a lie. So
Well, you were swindled.
live with it.
You were swindled
Deal
for
with
so
it.
long. You were
I
swindled.
was.
for quite some
I've been
time.
living with this lie for 2 weeks because we were supposed to record last week and we didn't.
Yeah.
It just hurts me to lie to you guys, and our listening public. But not so bad that I won't do it again in the future. So
Well,
it is
Is that
it's
a
not
threat or a promise?
just a threat. It's a promise. Look out for
Okay.
me the next April Fool's Day. I will find something
gosh.
else to lie about.
I mean, we'll all lie about April Fools. That's what we do.
Gonna be hot. Off the presses.
And on that note, I'm gonna.
I was gonna
steal
say,
the-
Zach, I need you to jump in here, or I will keep talking forever.
Segways are weird.
Yeah.
Whoop. I need a slide whistle.
No, because you would use it at irresponsible times.
Is there ever a responsible use for a slide whistle?
Absolutely. When you whip your dick out on a first encounter, you just have that slide whistle.
Excuse me?
The girl's like rustling around in your pants, and you're just like, "Woo."
Fair enough. I'll take that response.
I don't know what I would do. That's a stumper. That's a
mean-
murder right there.
I'm not getting a second date, but maybe she had.
But it's a great
memorable
story
time.
she can tell later.
Exactly. Or maybe it's a story we tell to our grandkids someday.
Who knows?
When your grandmother was whipping out my dick.
Let me tell you, I made this noise.
Anyway,
That girl just gets turned on every time she hears a slide whistle. All right.
No.
Zach, tell your story, please. Save us from ourselves.
anyone who knows us or listens to After Dark knows we all collectively have an affinity for video games and their lovely history.
We're also friends with a guy named James.
Yes, we are.
So,
And in fact, Matt, you actually covered the World of Warcraft Blood Plague on one episode, so
I did indeed.
You know, we're not strangers to
did.
video games and their history. So tonight, I would like to tell the story of a game I think absolutely no one should ever play ever.
E.T.
No, it's a game called Rogue.
Oh, okay.
Our story begins with a man by the name of Toy. Michael Toy and his friend Glenn Witchman. Now, Toy's...
These are some good names, I'll say.
There's some great names.
These are protagonist names.
These are top tier.
They got some main character energy for sure.
Yeah.
So Toy's father was a nuclear scientist in California.
Oh, already. Nice.
Getting into it. And once a year, his company did the whole, like, hey, take your kid to work sort of deal. And it wasn't long before Michael was infatuated with the computer systems and more specifically a text-based Star Trek game that could run on the system at his father's work. Mind you, this is in 1971, so text-based computer games are pretty much the pinnacle of video games.
Yeah, they're like, I'm in a nuclear reactor right now at my dad's work, but, these text-based
I
video
think we need
games
to
are
address the
niche.
fact that both of my co-hosts have now said the word nuclear incorrectly.
What do you mean?
You're saying
Nuclear?
nuclear, which is not how you say it. It's
What are you
spelled
talking about?
nuclear. Guys,
Nuclear.
Guys.
Tomato. Let's
Guys.
fucking go.
guys, I'm giving
Yeah.
you both strikes.
No.
Because
Why?
today,
That's how you say it.
I am a grammar Nazi. And it's the punishment you deserve.
Nuclear.
Learn
That's how you
how
say
to say
nuclear.
words correctly.
Okay.
You know what? I had someone called me out for
Drawing?
saying drawing wrong. Yeah, they were like, "Why are you putting an R at
How
the
do
end?"
wait, say it again?
And I was like,
You are
Drawing
putting an R where one does not exist.
does not belong.
Yeah, but you guys wouldn't have noticed.
No, I did notice
immediately.
Just like when Zach said nuclear, and I was like, I'll let that slide, but then you did it, and I was like, I cannot allow this to occur.
Okay.
We do have to get on with Zach's story, but we can fight about this later. For now, both of you have strikes.
This game was so lovely that Michael learned programming specifically to write a copy of the game for himself that you could play on his Atari 400.
Python? C++?
No, this is way before Python and C++, my friend.
He learned Spanish.
Yes, the Atari 400 ran on Spanish. So in the late 1970s, Michael enrolls and is accepted into the University of California, Santa Cruz, where he has access to their PDP-11 and VAX-11, which in layman's terms were 16 and 32-bit computers, respectively. What a lot of processing power. Oh my goodness.
Okay. Not a lot of processing power.
Itty bitty living space.
Exactly. But this allowed Michael to code and do more coding, and it also allowed him to explore the possibilities of games on the ARPANET, or the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, which was the first wide-area packet-switched network with distribution control. Please pardon the ongoing technical jargon, but tech nerds just started slinging custard because what I described was the beginnings of the internet.
Oh my god. The beginning of it all. The humanity's downfall.
Welcome to the internet.
Welcome to the internet, and also the death of your attention
So the
spans.
ARPANET was basically like a bunch of files that were like hosted together on main servers that could be accessed through other other computers on the network. Kind of like when you're at school and you can like access the school's network. Same kind of idea. Eventually that's just expanded into the whole fucking internet. So Michael Toy falls in love with a brand new game that he finds on this place called Colossal Cave Adventure, which is another text-based adventure game, which inspires him to write his own game. You see where this is going?
I think so. I also just realized I've been muted for the last minute because I blew my nose.
Well, welcome back then.
Hey, thanks.
So, enter Glenn Wichman, another student at UCSC.
Glenn Wichman was a boy like any other, living in small town America. Sorry, I was writing the trailer.
Wichman was a boy like any other who was a big fucking nerd, and he was writing his own adventure game at the time that he's at University of California, Santa Cruz. But it's a different kind of adventure game to Michael Toy's. You see, Wichman had grown up making variations on TTRPGs and was studying game design to become a board game developer, which, how the fuck do I get that job? That sounds dope.
Sounds like a good time.
Sounds like a great time. Wichman and Toy ended up becoming really good friends, talking about different, like, ideas of adventures and game design, and they actually end up moving in together during their time at college because they're like, fuck it, we keep bouncing great ideas off of each other. Let's keep going. And this highly likely duo share an apartment together to basically continue to, like, give each other ideas. Toy was the coder and Wichman was the designer, and together they found their sticking point with every other game that they had played, both on computers and technology, and in board games, and it was the desire to play it again after you were done. Like, you would learn Kill Troll with Sword, yes, that is a Zork reference, but you didn't have to learn it again. It was the same thing every time you played Zork. And around this time in 1980, a new operating system is being used on campus at University of California, Santa Cruz, and it contained in it the Curses programming library, which sounds awful, but really all it did was allow programmers to place characters, the letters and numbers, not your level 12 high elf wizard, at any point on a terminal, meaning you could map things out and create the first and most rudimentary graphics. So two men come up with the idea to make a Dungeons and Dragons-like game where they could have elements of the game that would change every time you played it. And they called it Rogue, after the idea of that instead of being in a D&D party, you're an adventurer going at it alone.
Nice.
A rogue, if you will. And they ran into a lot of initial issues, like having a hard time coding for random, true, authentic random generation. Sometimes there would be like a staircase that would lead to nowhere due to the random generator. It was like, well, I'm randomly going to put elements in here, even if they don't make sense. And so their solution to random generation being a problem was procedural generation. Instead of trying to randomize a whole map at a time, you write the code to build out a room in 3x3 grids. So as the player moves along, more is generated off of where you move. And these two guys basically sat down and made the first procedurally generated dungeon crawler in 1980.
Nice.
Which is astounding.
Inspired by
nuclear physics and Star Trek.
Nuclear!
Nuclear physics, Star Trek, and also a little bit of D&D. And they begin playtesting.
Wow, the unholy trinity.
At University of California, Santa Cruz. And people, even in 1980, were like save scumming and doing other dirty tricks to like beat the game. But the game was a really big hit with all of the students on campus. And it continues to grow, and they continue to work on it until Michael Toy actually gets kicked out of University of California, Santa Cruz, because he was spending so much time working on Rogue that he was failing all of his classes.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, just because he didn't have the Zuckerberg plan of dropping out before they could
yes,
get rid
exactly.
of him, we're gonna frown
but
on him.
I'm not gonna shit on him because the story doesn't end there. Michael Toy manages to get a job in the computer labs at University of California, Berkeley, which puts a strain on him and Wichmann working on the project together because they can't really do much over long distances. UC California, Berkeley, and UC California, Santa Cruz are like miles and miles apart. And this is before the birth of the real internet, so Wichmann hands over the full production of Rogue to Toy. And Toy is like, well, now I'm one man developing this game rather than two. But Ken Arnold, a new player in this, was a student at University of California, Berkeley, who played Rogue because while Rogue started at UC Berkeley, it was on the network that was for all of the University of California's. And it snuck its way into UC Berkeley. So Ken Arnold plays Rogue, and he was like, I bet I can improve on this design. I know I can work on this, but I don't have the source code. And then all of a sudden, Michael Toy ends up getting a job at UC Berkeley. And Ken Arnold is like, hey man, I know we can do better with this. I think we can have updates, including a modem line so you can play online. And Toy and Arnold meet up, quickly become friends, and they both start working on this project together. They contact Wichmann after another year or two, and basically are like, hey, we can get this game to market. It's ready to go. And they work with Epic's EPYX, which was a game developer at the time, to sell the game. And they're really excited about it, except the game is a commercial failure on launch.
Damn.
And they barely make enough money to, get in the clear.
Dude, imagine that being any other pursuit in life, though, where you're like, this is fucking gas. People are gonna love this. And then it gets out there in the wild, and it's, incorrect.
So the problem is that Epix was such a small distributor and they weren't really marketing the game very well. So it was too ahead of its time and it wasn't marketed well enough to actually sell. So it was not a failure on the game's part. It was a failure on the marketing part. But what's important about Rogue is that despite it failing commercially, it is one of the biggest technical achievements and most important movements in video game history, and it is the first procedurally generated game, the first game with replayability, and one of the first games that lets a player do more than type in prompts. And I say that no one should play this game ever, but everyone has played a variation of this game, and they love it. Because it is the style of game that we still play today. Why do you think they're called roguelikes?
Ping pong.
Oh my god!
Coming full circle.
I was wondering if it... I was wondering if it was going to... Like, because I've never heard of the game Rogue. Right, but like games that were made in the 70s and 80s and some even in the early 90s, like they were doing frontier-like things. But like the games themselves sort of faded into antiquity, but we still use things from them, right? And so I was like, I wonder if this has anything to do with roguelikes.
It is the birth of the roguelike. And again,
I can't believe... I love roguelikes.
I do too. They're great. And again, the reason I say that no one should play this game is because the graphics themselves... When I say graphics, it is a horribly outdated term. Like, look on Discord. I'm showing you what this game looked like.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah, brother.
It's just like... When I say characters to build things, it was dots, dashes, ASCII.
Oh, no.
That's what it was. Like, the ampersand represented a player.
And that's how they move.
Player? So bad.
I'm trying to find the ampersand up in this bitch.
So, like, it's not a graphical achievement, but for the time, that was... You had different characters denoting different things.
What's the letter E?
I think an E was a monster.
Like, who's that, an enemy? Oh, no. What's B? Is that
it's a big bad evil
big
guy
bad enemy?
I'm not sure. I don't remember all the things, but like there are certain games who have made like similar ideas to Rogue, and they still use the same language as the original game.
God, that's so funny.
Again, I don't recommend playing this game because it's just like you can get it on Steam still. It's available on Steam to play today, but like I recommend playing the hundreds of games that this one inspired, both directly and indirectly.
Don't play it.
But it's a beautiful thing. That was a great achievement. And on top of that, while Toy, Witchman, and Arnold went their separate ways after the commercial failure of Rogue, they ended up all actually coming together again in 2016. And they reunited for the first time in 30 years at like a celebration of the game Rogue, where they like did a whole panel and answered questions, and it was a really cool thing. You actually find the whole interview on YouTube, and they're all like such interesting people because they were like, this was just such a passion project, and we knew we had something there. But yeah, that is the history of the video game Rogue, which is... It doesn't make any sense to play now, but like, man, oh man, did it inspire some of the greatest games that we have now.
At least it has a happier history than that of E.T.
E.T. got a good ending where they dug all the copies up.
Hey, you ever wonder why all those copies ended up in a landfill?
Because Atari was ashamed.
No, because it was a bad game that should never have come out.
Agreed.
But hey, now that Zach's done telling his story, because we took a long time to let him do that,
it was a good story.
It was a good story. It's not often that we come to this podcast, and I think that was genuinely some information that I had a lot of fun learning.
I know, like, I like nuclear reactors and roguelikes. I don't need that.
This is gonna piss me off. I'm not trying to drag you. I'm just trying to correct you so that other people in the wilds don't do it.
The last time someone tried to correct me on the way that that I said drawing, she was from Texas, and I said, "Oh yeah, because you pronounce it."
Texas people
down
call
there.
every soda a Coke. They cannot say shit.
What you should have said is, "I'll take advice from you when all of your words stop being italics."
Yeah, well, I mean, I essentially did, and then Houston flooded that year, and I was just like, yeah, maybe you should just, like, I don't know, stop being the Lone Star State or something. Like, rip to a legend. But, so, there's no snappy title for this story, just because, like, they're really... I couldn't find one. So it's just called hair art. And we're just going to learn some disturbing facts. So every day, it feels like I learned something new and strangely endearing, but also disturbing about the Victorians. Zach, you know. Like, was it you who said that they ate the mummies?
Who reported on the story? Because I think that was Zach. I remembered it.
Yeah, that's what I'm...
what was it, 2 weeks ago? When I was like, they eat mummies. It was, because we were talking about...
Yep.
Yeah. We all know. Guys, if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, you all know the Victorians were kind of problematic. Still are.
They were like, I love...
And mummies.
Drugs.
And mummies.
Dead people. So they truly walked so we could run far away from where
I was about to say, are we really running? But then your joke concluded and it was better than...
Yeah, thank you.
No,
I really do try.
That was top 10 joke, honestly.
Top
S-tier
10
joke.
S-tier.
Just like the dildo.
So in this particular... Oh, yeah, that's true.
Oh,
no,
the
vibrator's
an
S-tier.
I mean, dildos are good too, guys. Come on. Whatever knocks your socks off.
Fine. Whatever absolutely blasts you out of the park.
Continue, Meghan, please.
He's dying now. I can't. So in this particular case, we are going to talk about their love of art, particularly hair jewelry.
Okay.
Yeah, just, not only for your head, but other places as well. So, have you ever wondered what it would be like to have a ring or earrings made of hair?
I've never.
It'd be more hair than I have on my head currently.
You've never? Well, what about a nice
made
portrait?
Of hair?
Made of hair?
Wall? Yeah.
Made of hair?
My ex used to do that in the shower, so.
Paint? Paint is so Renaissance. Like, we're evolving.
Are we?
And every girl, like you said, paints with hair in the shower.
For some reason unknown to man or God. They do.
Guess.
Yeah, it just like, we put it on the shower walls, and it makes... It's like a Rorschach of hair. Yeah, well, like, we gotta evolve past paint at some point. So, to be fair, it wasn't just the Victorians doing this. Human hair has been used in craft work since the Middle Ages and was used for memorial jewelry in mourning. So we have talked about memento moris on this show before. And this was another type of memento mori. It was considered to be a remnant of the person it was cut from, but it also played a part in myths where hair could increase wealth. And having something with the person's hair in it was a sign of devotion, so it could be like a token.
Fun.
Yeah. So, like, very versatile. So, although hair art did have its start before the Victorians. It was during this period where it really started to take off. Not only was there jewelry, but there was also hair artworks at home that included like full braids, wreaths, and woven floral patterns made of the stuff. Yeah, this is like a lot of hair.
Fun.
That may or may not be sourced from one person.
I think we can all put money on the fact that it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yes.
Safely, guys.
Or maybe someone, but like maybe someone had like a lot.
Maybe.
Like maybe. It was like, so the hair was like also arranged into mourning scenes where they made like willow trees and little like gravestones out of the hair. Which like has to take a lot of skill, right? Like, I can't even get my hair to stay right on my head. And like that's where it's supposed to be.
That is where it exists. Unless you're me and you're bald.
That's where it exists. And okay, yeah, but you
That's
have a really
true.
big beard.
I can't get that styled for anything though.
Okay, well, clearly they're doing some hairomancy.
Hairomancy. Oh
so-
my god.
Hairomancy. Maybe that's what I should
There
have
we
named
go.
this
Go back to the
story.
beginning. Megan, what's the name of your story?
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Oh, well, funny you should ask. It's called
Nice.
Hairomancy.
Oh my god.
Nice. That's really clever. Wow, Megan, you're so great. So it also moved beyond mourning and into celebrating the caregivers' like personal achievements, or to signify special bonds between friends and family and loved
my
ones. So I guess this is better than like a tattoo, but how awkward would it be to like have a falling out and then have to return the hair picture to the owner?
I mean, is it better than a tattoo? I don't know.
Well, you can throw out a hair picture. The tattoo's on you forever.
You're
Yeah, but,
absolutely
like,
right.
Look, I guess like at least with a tattoo you can have like a dumb, like you can be like, well, this was a dumb thing I did. You know, I don't.
Yeah. The hair art isn't glued to your wall. It's like in a picture frame.
Yeah, but man, then you got to be like, yeah, I had hair art. I don't know.
Here's the thing, Zach. If you just toss it out, no one ever has to know.
I guess.
Whereas with
no
a
one ever has to
tattoo,
know.
people will always be like, oh, who's that? And you have to be like, oh.
Oh yeah.
That's someone who I really admired the achievement of.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So hair art also... yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can set hair art on fire. You can't set a tattoo on fire. You need lasers. and shit for that. Lasers! Maybe we'll cover fun laser stories in another episode. So, hair art also became a common skill taught to young women of the period. They'll do anything to not teach
In
you.
Victorian era, you're absolutely right.
They'll do anything to teach them, like not teach
You're
them
so
valuable skills. Yeah, so they taught this to young women of the period, and sometimes like mixed this with needlework. And there were even starter kits and magazines printed that showed patterns and how to get like started doing hair art needlework. And one of the reasons it became so popular during the Victorian period was because of Queen Victoria herself. She was in such deep mourning for her husband, Albert, that she had hair shit
Oh my
from
god.
him and was carrying it around. And everyone was like, wow, the Queen has been carrying around that piece of hair for like 40 years because Albert died relatively young. Maybe we should all be doing it too. Trendsetter.
Jeez.
And there was also the added economic downturn that was caused by powdered wigs falling out of fashion, and this left many hair artists, because yes, you could have way cooler jobs in the past, and hair artist was one of them. So it left many hair artists and wig makers out of business, and this offered these craftsmen a new opportunity to make income working with hair, the only thing they've ever known. It also seemed that eventually the art form grew beyond needing to know the person to have the hair. Buyers of hair traveled to the countryside and purchased hair from poor peasants, and sometimes in exchange for small luxury objects such as scarves. And then sometimes they also gave them money, but, like, who needs money when you're poor? You need scarves.
Scarves, the real thing.
The scarves, the real currency that we're after.
Oh my god.
There was also the need for great amounts of hair to make braids and switches that women wanted to purchase for their own, like, very elaborate hairstyle. So you, like, know those horrible, like, in the early 2000s, like, those hair scrunchies?
Yes.
Yes, it's sort of like that, except it was just a full-on braid of someone else's hair that they put
That's
into their
gross.
hair. It's gross. Yeah, super nasty. Gross Victorians. So, other reasons for the construction of hair jewelry in the home was the lack of trust in commercial manufacturers, and I'm so glad that there's still, like, a mistrust of big business even back then. It just warms the heart that people are mistrustful.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah, brother. So the concern was that the hair they gave these manufacturers wouldn't be the hair that was used, that they would, like, switch it out for, like, grosser hair. And even though the companies tried to get people to trust them with, like, advertisements, it kind of had the opposite effect, where it's just like, you can trust us, we'll definitely use your hair. And people were just like, why would they be saying that if they had something
Seems
to hide?
pretty fucking sus.
Yeah. Yeah, seems real sus that you'd be
That's
saying
what a
that.
liar would
and
say.
They were like, no, really. That's what a hair liar would say.
Jeez.
Anyway, so though hair art has largely fallen out of fashion, and until those hair scrunchies came back around, you know, there is a place right here in the U.S. where you can go and see hair art dating back to the 18th century. And it is called Layla's Hair Museum in Independence, Missouri.
Vacation is, kids.
And the I know, we got the Court Palace and the Hair Museum. So the founder's name, it was Layla Cohoon, and she was a retired cosmetology teacher who started collecting hair in 1956, and she considered it her life's work. Some people become nuns because it's their vocation, their calling. Some people are teachers and doctors, and she was like gobbling up the hair on the floor after she cut it from people, and she's like, yum yum yum, into the hair museum you go.
Jeez.
I think we need to we need to outlaw someone saying yum yum yum,
Yum,
about
yum.
hair ever again in life.
Yes. Absolutely.
No, it's like, did you guys ever watch Flapjack?
Oh, no, that show gave me nightmares just from watching previews.
Yeah, it was a really scary cartoon on Cartoon Network, like back in the Courage the Cowardly Dog days. And they lived on a pier out in the middle of the ocean, and the hairdresser had to keep cutting people's hair and, like, putting it into a hole in the floor because there was, like, something in his basement that ate hair. And she's like, that thing. She's
I
like,
thought they lived on a whale.
No, the whale was Flapjack's
Mother
friend
figure?
and
Yeah.
stepmom.
Bubby?
Yeah, motherly figure.
Bubby?
Bubby. Yeah. So
I know more about that show than I
Layla
should.
Cohoon. You should, yeah. I've like unlocked memories.
Zach,
of
if you want to
Flapjack.
have nightmares, literally just look up Misadventures of Flapjack Dentist.
I have
it's
seen
horrible.
parts of this
It's absolutely
show, and
horrible.
man, oh man, you're right.
Yeah, it's not good. It's like not a good time. So Layla Cohoon, it was her life's work, and she said she was always fascinated with hair as a child and considered it to be one of the most unusual parts of the human body. And man, do I have news for her. Has she ever seen a spleen? What is that even?
What a great question, to be honest.
She opened... What? Yeah, like... But she thought hair took the top spot as most unusual part of the human body. So she opened her hair museum in 1986 in the front room of her cosmetology school, which I assume was a massive red flag to anyone who wanted to attend the school, but clearly it got business. They did not think anything of the hair in the front room. So later, she moved her museum a few blocks up the road so she was able to expand the hair collection because there's just, it's just getting too big. And some of the rooms are covered from floor to ceiling in hair. Like, fucking wallpapered in this shit. And she also boasts that she has hair from George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Marilyn Monroe, leading me to believe she is also quite possibly a grave robber, as well as the monster who lives under the floorboards in Flapjack.
She definitely is a grave robber.
Yeah, she definitely is. But yeah, that's my story about hair art, also called hairology. Hairomancy, sorry.
Well, that's wonderful.
Hairomancy.
Sometimes you get a good story about a fun video game, and sometimes you get a whole shit about hair, and man...
And then other times you get an entire lie about airplanes.
I'll take the lie, man. I was hoping the hair was a lie.
Nah,
I'm hoping this was a toupee of a story.
People in the Victorian era were fucked up.
Yeah, man, they were.
Yeah, but this lady wasn't even part of the Victorian era. She's just
now.
weird.
Yeah, it's wild. It's crazy that she'd do that. I'm going to have nightmares for the rest of the day now, so, we should probably end the podcast.
Well,
yeah, that was fun.
Luckily, the day's almost over, so...
I don't know, man.
This is the part of the podcast where I typically start talking about how I'm going to do our outro.
I need a minute.
So
I hate to say it. I need a minute.
Zach's processing the hair. The hair of it all.
You can't process the hair. Your body can't digest it anyway.
No, that's true. That's a whole plot in Sandman on Netflix.
Really?
Yeah. The first episode of... No, it's one of the bonus episodes that they gave after the season came out. This author wants to be an amazing writer, and he trades a clump of hair that was in someone's stomach to this author who has a muse chained up in his basement. And he talks all about how it's believed to have magical properties.
Interesting. Well, on that note, I think I've recovered enough to do our socials.
Do it.
Well, folks, thank you very much for listening to this wonderful episode. We at least hope you thought it was wonderful. We thought it was wonderful. But if you'd like to help support us, you can absolutely do so, and you can do so in a free way by following us on our socials. If you find us on Facebook, The Triumvirate Productions, you can find us on Instagram at _Triumvirate_Productions, and you can also find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever else you get your wonderful podcasts. And if you leave us a rating and review on that podcast, well, we'd be pretty ding-dang happy about it. All those 5 stars reviews are they're really helpful. They help bump us up the charts, and it also makes it so that we don't have to, pay for ads, because we don't pay for ads. If you do want to support us monetarily, we also appreciate that. You can find us on Patreon at the Triumvirate Productions, and you can support us with $3, $5, or $10 levels. Your $3 is just a big thank you. Your $5 gets you your bonus content of After Dark, and our $10 level gets you the After Dark and also unedited episodes and our eternal gratitude, and you get to hear a lot more from us on the Patreon rather than the regular social media feeds. But that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Matt, take it away.
What am I taking away?
This baton. I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed.
Okay.
Do you think Martha May Whovier from The Grinch, fucks incredibly?
That's a cold take, my friend.
I need you to repeat that whole sentence.
Well, do you think Martha May Whovier from The Grinch Stole Christmas is incredible in bed?
Yeah. What the fuck, history?